Welcome back to the Night Shift, your safe space for talking about UFOs, UAPs, NHI, disclosure, and everything else your friends, family, and coworkers are so sick and tired of hearing you go on and on about.
Welcome back to the Night Shift, your safe space for talking about UFOs, UAPs, NHI, disclosure, disclosure day, disclosure nights, disclosure after dark, and everything else that your friends, family, and coworkers are so sick and tired of hearing you go on and on about. We're brought to you by Night Shift, the coffee, the freshest coffee anywhere in the galaxy. Get yours today at teamnightshift.com, roasted to order for you within 48 hours. Of every order. So, hey guys, we've got an interesting show for you tonight. We're going to talk about Disclosure Day. We are going to talk about it, but we're going to do it in a way that is spoiler free. And we're going to save it until the end. So I think in the last half an hour, we'll go there. And if there are going to be any spoilers, we'll be sure to let you know so that you can check out or mute or go away. So we're going to talk about Disclosure Day. Of course, we're going to talk about the huge press conference that David Grush Hour 2, Burleson, Burchett, the UAP caucus had this week on the steps of the Capitol building in D.C. And we have some awesome analysts here to tell us what they think about it. Rob Jones is here from News Nation, and your friend and mine, UAP Gerb, is here. Dan and Xander can't be here tonight because they are actually seeing Disclosure Day together. So that's really sweet. And they finally, were able to hook it up and make it happen. So they're going to go see it tonight. And we've also got Mr. Justin with us tonight, who you have not seen on the show. He's joining us. Mr. Justin's usually behind the scenes, but he dropped in to hang out with us today. And we've got Andy from that UFO podcast is here. So let's get everybody on the stage. How we doing, guys?
Doing fantastic.
What's going on, Doomers?
Who here? Packed. Show of hands. Who has seen Disclosure Day so far? Anybody? Okay. Most. Okay, Rob, we're waiting on you. Thanks, man.
Look, I'm broke. I would go see it if I had the money in my bank account. Listen,
I will
contact
pay,
in the desert
I will
me.
I will pay for you to go and see it, Rob.
We're going to take up a collection from the audience. I saw it at a Cinebistro cinema, which we're not going to talk about the movie, but just the experience of going to the movie. It's like a $15 ticket, which is fine, okay, because reclining seats and you can order a meal and you can get a beer. And so I was like, okay, I'm there for the whole experience. And I went in. The theater is about halfway full. I'm seeing it at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Thursday, so that's expected. And I get a great spot, right in the sweet spot, right in the middle. And these two guys who were just talking the entire time, out of all the places they could have sat right next to me. And for the first half hour, they were just jibber jabbering along, and until I had to lean over and go, do you mind? And then I got a $10 beer and a $20 hamburger. And the hamburger sucked. Damn. And the beer was great, but I had to pee for the last 45 minutes of the movie. And it just kept going and building. And I'm like, come on, let's get to the end here. And I just barely hung on. So it was a real nail biter, but worth every second of it. Overall, what do you guys think? Good? Not good?
8.5.
8.5. Okay.
8.
8.
I'd probably go 8 as well.
8. Wow.
Because
okay.
just because of the subject matter as well. That movie would, no matter what, be above a 2.5 star for me, just because of the topic.
Just because of the topic. Okay. So let me see if
Justin?
I can pull this back. What do you think, Justin?
It's like an 8 or a 9 for me. I mean, I had chills through the whole movie, so
It was pretty emotional. I agree with you there, Justin.
It was emotional. It was emotional. We'll come back to that at the end of the show and talk about this. But I just wanted to show the early numbers are not looking good for Disclosure Day, which is really weird. Says
this is concerning for me.
It is. It is.
These are early numbers, and it could change, but it would have to change quite a bit to make it not flop at this stage, which is really weird considering the subject matter, Steven Spielberg, and everything else that's going on in this space. But I would say this, like, do you think, are we actually further along in terms of what's been put out there than, like, when they made the film, a lot of the stuff that we have just seen happen wasn't happening yet, and now it's happening publicly. So there are some gaps, I think. I don't want to spoil it, but if you just turn on the TV, you're seeing a lot of stuff. What do you guys think?
Yeah, can I come in on this, right?
Please.
When you say we're seeing this stuff, you have to speak more generally. The general public, this movie, and I'm not going to spoil anything, it's still got to keep things broad. It's still got to appeal to a general audience. If they make a movie that Gerb gives 10 out of 10, it's probably not for everyone else because it's going to appeal to the things like we talked about before we went on air, that you would look for granular detail to be like, that really appeals to you. And that goes for all of us interested in this topic. This is still a movie they want to make $1 billion, because $1 billion is the box office standard for success these days.
Mm-hmm.
What the budget was, you have to double for marketing because that's how movies work. So if it was a $300 million movie, they will have spent around $300 million on marketing. So they will have to make back that, double the budget just to break even, which isn't good enough. So they can't go. It's still, we've all seen the trailers. It's still whistleblowers, secrets, aliens, UFOs, and what if. Regardless what's happened since Spielberg started making it, none of that's changed. So all you would be doing is going into even more granular detail, which the public do not want. The public want Barbie. The public, don't want detail. And that's shown in the fact that critics have largely went, to this movie from the get-go. There's some okay reviews, but generally critics are going, it's fine, Spielberg's done better, etc., etc., etc. I'm not massively surprised, albeit a little bit disappointed. I wanted it to do better, but I don't know what people are quite hoping for.
I see what you mean, and I was thinking this about a third of the way through the movie. It was like it became clear to me that there's no way to do this in 2 hours. You can't.
Yeah.
You could scratch the surface just barely, and the pieces of lore that they do bring into the script are amazing.
Stop.
I'm not going to say anything. They're amazing, and there is lore that's brought in, and there's some deep lore, but you can't go that deep in 2 hours. You just don't have that kind of time. So I understand what you're saying. Yeah, that's an interesting one. The public wants Barbie. Anybody else? What do you guys think?
I think part of it probably lies within FIFA and just some huge sporting events this weekend. The cinema has been doing pretty well lately. Us moviegoers have been spoiled for choice. The Backroom's obsession to horror movies on a pretty low budget have both made over $100 million. So I don't think it's necessarily reflective of people not going to the movie theater right now.
So it might pick up in a couple of days.
There's also
go ahead.
There's
Pete.
also a really cool martial arts movie that came out that is like wild, according to people who have seen it. I think it's called The Furious or something like that.
Mm.
No, I haven't heard of that.
Yes.
Most recent martial arts movie I saw was Mortal Kombat 2.
How was Mortal Kombat 2?
Those are like kind of
It was
my thing.
incredibly
I guess
fun.
too.
God, I remember seeing Mortal Kombat 1 on in the theater at the mall. It's a long time.
Yeah, this was the sequel to the more recent Mortal Kombat reimagining that they did, and it's Carl Urban plays a washed-up actor Johnny Cage who is told to just do what you do on film, and apparently it works, and it's very funny.
So they stayed true to the humor
to the video game, yeah.
The video game, that's great. This is another article from the AP. I want to share this really quick too. Let's see if I can pull this up. This just came out. Where are we? Oh, wait a second. Oh, it's a Safari. That's why. I got the wrong window. As UFOs go mainstream. Here we go. This is what I was saying. I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. I'm curious what you guys, what your take is on this. AP under religion, as UFOs go mainstream, the jury is out on what the existence of alien life might mean for religion. And this is Krista Fauria. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Krista. It says, in Disclosure Day, out Friday, Steven Spielberg is once again inviting audiences to ponder the existence of extraterrestrial life and the implications it would have for religion on Earth. But Spielberg is hardly the only one making headlines of late about UFOs and the possibility of life on other planets. What was once considered fringe or conspiratorial has in recent months popped up everywhere from the White House to the Catholic Church as public fascination with unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs, becomes more mainstream. And then it goes on to talk about the Pentagon releases. And I'm just curious, we have some conflicting information on or some conflicting numbers with the box office on Disclosure Day, but broadly speaking, do you think we've hit a mainstream moment, or am I still barking up the wrong tree here?
I mean, Reuters did live stream the Grush event at the Capitol, didn't they? That was pretty big for me.
Reuters picked it up?
Yeah.
Wow.
They live streamed it.
Yeah, I know my network live streamed it. There were a lot of other networks that were there. It felt pretty mainstream when I was there at the moment. I can't really speak for other networks. I'll say that the people at my network take the subject really seriously. They know that we derive a lot of traffic from the UFO and UAP topics. So to put it in perspective for any of the viewers, we have a working group of anywhere between like 16 to 22 people at any given time that are waiting for these UAP releases. I have to go through them along with one or two other analysts. We look through the stuff and then we disseminate that out to the network for how we're going to cover it. But there are a lot of people that are involved in generating that coverage for the network. We take it, really seriously, which is pretty cool.
Your network takes it as seriously as any other beat that there is, right? I mean, it seems like News Nation stands out as the one network that seems committed to covering this daily. I don't know of any other network that does this. Is there?
I don't know that anybody else covers it daily, and I'm not sure that we're entirely guilty of covering it every single day. Although, if we release Ross Coulthard content every day, then likely we cover it every day. But we try. I don't know that anybody else is quite as committed. It's just that internally, there's never really been too much pushback from anybody at my network that I've heard so far. The only things that I've ever really heard are like more junior producers discussing it in sort of a way that's dismissive just because they don't understand enough context. Yeah. And I have to prevent, it takes everything within my soul to not experience the unk moment and stand up and be like, actually, that's not true. I overheard your conversation. So.
Well, talk to us a little bit, or can you? Let me ask it this way. Can you talk to us a little bit about internally sort of the dynamics of what you see at News Nation and in I know how they cover it. Ross is certainly on this beat all the time. You're working on this beat. From the upper management level, I mean, do they offer any guidance on how this should be handled, or are they sort of like hands off? You guys run with it and just follow it wherever it goes, or how does that dynamic work at News Nation?
I don't want to get into too many specifics like organizationally as to how we cover that stuff, because that can come off the wrong way if you describe it the wrong way. And I'm really new to the news network, so I don't want to say anything in that regard. There is, let's call it a holistic approach to how this is covered. There's opinions coming at me from all angles as to how I should interpret things, or like asking for my interpretation of things, and then, you know, those pieces of info being disseminated out to other portions of the network. Each show and each portion of our company sort of functions a little bit differently and has their own unit. So it's a little bit of a battlefield in that sense, but we have a working group established now to sort of spread that info. A lot of it comes from me, comes from Ross, comes from a couple other people who have followed the subject on a regular basis. We have a couple great writers like Steph Whiteside, and Steve Joachim knows quite a bit as well. Also, Joe Khalil, our special Washington correspondent, is pretty knowledgeable on the subject as well.
Well, can you guys tell us a little bit about earlier this week? David Grush had this press conference on the steps of the Capitol building, and the UAP caucus was there. It was pretty amazing to watch. There was quite a bit of fanfare around what he had to say. You were there,
right? I don't remember him wearing that outfit.
No,
but...
no, not wearing this outfit. But this is just our.
It looks pretty badass.
This is our thumbnail.
Yeah, it does.
You do remember the 15-foot tall bald eagle that was behind everyone, though, yeah?
That was there. Yeah.
How could you miss it? So what was it like to be there? And can you give us some context on how did that come together, and what was your sense of, as you were talking to people there, what was that like?
So I know a little bit about how it came together, but I don't know how much of that I can share. I helped a little bit, tiny bit. I don't want to take any credit here other than what was asked of me randomly, which I didn't expect, but I did a little bit of organization in terms of getting my network's coverage there and things of that nature. It was an effort from a lot of different people. I know that Leslie Keene and James Fox were the ones that organized it. You know, I don't know a lot of the details behind the scenes there, but I will say that my experience was pretty surreal. I didn't expect personally to see a very huge turnout. So when I showed up about an hour and a half early, there were a couple of other press conferences that were operating in that same space, because that little triangle, it's called the House Triangle, that we were standing in, has a bunch of like physical hookups for like data links for cameras, power, things of that nature, for people to feed stuff directly back to their networks. And that's all like out on like this big, like what looks like a transformer box. Mm-hmm. So you set up all your press like all around that, and everybody hooks back in, so on and so forth. All that's to say, there were a couple of other press conferences that were taking place beforehand that were much more sparsely attended than this one.
Looks like you had a pretty big group there that day.
Yeah, absolutely. It felt like there were about 100, 150 people out there. You know, I saw Rainn Wilson from The Office there.
Oh, that's
was
right.
He at this press conference, or was he just
was
passing
there.
through?
He was there.
No, he was there. He was there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. He's a really nice guy. I ran into a friend of a friend, Benji Fields, who's going to be a presenter at the SCU conference in Toronto in July. Ran into him there. Trying to think. Ran into a bunch of other people. Jeff Nusatelli was there.
Mm-hmm.
Admiral Gallaudet. You know, the who's who.
The whole gang.
But you know, yeah, just in terms of like the experience, though, for me personally, you know, I know I've talked about this on this channel before. I got into this subject after my brother passed away because he was interested in UFOs. So I decided it was sort of a way to connect with him. And about a month after he passed away, David Grush gave his testimony. And that's really kind of what kicked my interest in the subject into high gear. So for that to have happened 3 years ago, in which my career was not at all associated with the media or with journalism in any fashion, for that to have happened 3 years ago, and then to have found myself, you know, kneeling down in front of the cameras, asking him a question after the press conference was over, was a very, very surreal feeling. I don't know how to describe that, but it felt pretty cool to be there, and just like mind blowing. I was like, oh, wow, I did make it. Okay, what do I do now? I don't know what to do with my hands.
Rob, after being interrupted by TMZ, did you get to give your card to Grush or not? That's what I
No,
want to know.
no, I did not.
Oh, that sucks.
Nah, it's quite
Okay.
all right. It's I'm glad that I didn't realize it was TMZ, because I almost was like, I was a little frustrated. I was like, who are these guys asking questions? I want to interrupt these guys and be like, hey, excuse me, and so on. But I didn't, thankfully, because that would have been really rude. And I got away without getting on TMZ's bad side.
Well, what about the actual statement that Grush himself made during this? I mean, he made a number of different statements, but I want to hear from you and Gerb on some of the more interesting specifics of those statements, including, I guess the big one was, what is it? Humanoid bipedal all the way up to sentient
plasmoid.
Plasmoid.
Yeah.
So, how do we break into this conversation, guys? What do you make of that?
Gerb, you want to take that first? Because I think you have a better understanding of where
Sure.
David's coming from, how or when he describes that.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm probably a little bit more boring than most. With my takeaways from the press conference, I'm less interested in the bipedal sentience and sentient plasmoids and more interested in the coordinated appeal to waive NDAs for first-handers who have had experience within the legacy programs or have possibly been exposed to materials, craft, documents, data, etc. from the programs and have been forced or kind of guided into signing NDAs. That's a huge step, especially a public appeal to the administration. A couple weeks ago, there were, of course, rumors floating around about that request to waive non-disclosure agreements. And last Friday, I was texting Xander behind the scenes while you guys were talking about it. Now, the NDA waiving, let's say Trump gives an executive order to waive NDAs, it's not going to be as simple as suddenly we start getting flooded with a ton of whistleblower testimonies. These testimonies still will be delivered in a classified setting. This will still be protected disclosures, so sort of similar to what some witnesses do now. And of course, there will have to be a ton of clauses and implementation for prospective whistleblowers who are kind of on edge. Like, you got to think about this. What if you're a crash retrieval operator who may have been involved in some blue on blue crime, or somebody in some Air Force acquisition position who may have cooked some books for misappropriation of funds, and your NDAs are waived, but you're not going to go speak if you're still culpable for several white and blue collar crimes or instances of criminal offenses. So there will need to be specific amnesty clauses and further waiving of possible legal misdeeds. That to me was my biggest takeaway, as well as Representative Burleson being the most fired up and direct I've ever seen him. So I think this was a very positive press conference. And where we sit now, the ball is in the court of the administration. You know, Burleson and others have spoken that certain individuals within the administration are willing to play ball on this topic, not just the releasing of UFO files, but on the crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. So ball's in their court. It's time to see how those individuals respond.
Can I do a follow-up on what you just said real quick? Because with the amnesty stuff, don't you think it would be better if we go on a case-by-case basis instead of just giving everybody amnesty? Because I'm not okay with people who committed like horrible crimes, you know?
Right,
and
but if you waive the NDAs right now, you're not going to have James Clapper, you're not going to have Terry Phillips, and you're not going to have other people at Northrop Grumman come forward right now to spill the beans on their NDAs. You're going to have guys who may have been implicated in crimes, may have done some pretty simple white or blue collar crime, et cetera. And then you can deal with kind of those top dogs. Sort of how this needs to be treated as like a criminal case. If you want to get to the top dogs, the kingpins, the James Clappers of the world, you start by flipping their underlings, the guys who have worked in the programs like the late Matthew Sullivan, and you work up from there. So no, I don't think you're going to get a James Clapper coming in admitting to all of his numerous crimes right away if this executive order is pushed. So is an executive order just by itself, is that sufficient to see this through, or would it have to be like you're saying there would have to be a lot of different clauses? It seems like you'd have an army of attorneys like working on this, right? Yes, because even if right now Trump were to sign an executive order release, like saying he wants to release the legacy program files, this doesn't cover anything covered by Atomic Energy Commission statutory authority under the 1954 Atomic Energy Act. That's basically a whole parallel avenue of classification, not executive order-based classification under 13526, 12356, and Title 10, Title 50. So those sorts of programs and information, data, videos, materials, et cetera, housed within the Department of Energy will not be such an easy shell to crack.
So we have the silo of the DOE, then we have the military and intelligence apparatus, right?
No, that's sort of how the Age of Disclosure paints the legacy program picture. But from what I understand, the Department of Energy and its statutory authority derived from the 1954 Atomic Energy Agreement is baked into every single layer of the legacy program. So at any layer, whether it's the administrative level, like let's just say AFTE, Air Force Test and Evaluation, or Air Force Acquisition, down to the specific contractor, Texas Instruments, for example, or Leidos. The Department of Energy will be included at an intimate level with every single operation within the programs for that sort of statutory classification that does not undergo mandatory declassification. So it's quite the pickle. It's a very, very, very difficult problem to tackle. But the waiving of NDAs is an excellent start, especially if individuals can just come forward with their information, whether it be in a crash retrieval capacity, whether it be in a firsthand on the legacy program, regardless of whether the Department of Energy or the Air Force or CIA, et cetera, were involved.
I wonder though if hang on, let me minimize. There we go. I wonder if so the DOE is the spiciest meatball. If you crack that one open, then you get to see everything. That's going to be the master.
Yes, because the Department of Energy, their special access programs, the DOE has their own SAPs, right? So the Department of Defense has their own special access programs. The intelligence community has their own controlled access programs, CAPS, and then the National Security Council has their own covert action programs, which were born out of 1954 with the 5412 committee. That's not important here. But the Department of Energy can derive their special access programs from Executive Order 13526 under Obama or the 1954 Atomic Energy Commission. So the Department of Energy has their own special access program oversight committee, or SAPOC. You know, I'm sure plenty of people here will recognize the term SAPOC, especially in terms of the Wilson Davis notes, where the SAPOC SRG senior review group consisted of the watch committee, the big bad gatekeepers of the programs. The Department of Energy has their own SAPOC. Their special access programs are that secretive and that well kept. So the Department of Energy gets real spooky real fast.
And you didn't mention private aerospace companies. That's a whole separate thing, right?
Yeah.
And is there a way to get at that as far as the UAP caucus is concerned, or are they? I mean, I know that they sent a letter to MITRE, right?
A letter, or several. We know there's been several. That's just not me saying that. Burleson himself has talked to our own Seco Activo podcast here about sending a set of legal interrogative towards the Aerospace Corporation, a similar FFRDC, which was started in 1960 as a spinoff of TRW. And basically, the Aerospace Corporation sent two man bun type Tim Burchett characters to sit and kind of waste Burleson and Dave Grush's time. There's a big misnomer that the legacy programs are just housed within private contractors. This has been done, in my understanding, to an extent, specifically in 2005 with Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, kind of harnessing funds that were redirected away from the global war on terror, realizing, hey, we can do our own thing with our independent research and development, IRAD, and starting their own thing. But it is the FFRDCs and the UARCs, University Affiliated Research Center, which exist in a quasi-government and private state. And that's where you hide the secrets if you want to keep things out of government reach, but still within government grasp, to use a very simple analogy there.
Andy, I see your hand going up. What's up, man?
Thank you. Right. See this idea of criminality and going after top dogs. I personally don't feel, and I'd love Gerb to come back on this and anyone else, there's going to be any appetite for that to happen, because what we're talking about here ultimately is still, are we alone in the universe? Are there NHI interacting with us? Do we have craft? Do you really think there's going to be any kind of public or official appetite to jail people for life who maybe have done, like Pavel said, really horrible things? And I get there's this outrage and outcry, this morality in the UFO community that people need to go down for what they have done. 99.999% of the general public won't care what X, Y, and Z have done when it comes to shit. We are not alone. There are aliens. That'll just go past people for me. And I'd love to know people's thoughts on that these guys won't go down for their crimes, because the general public and politicians and officials and these organizations will have a hell of a lot more to deal with than that.
I share your cynicism on that, for sure.
Yes, you absolutely will have to continue forward with that prosecution and reorganization, because if you have a disclosure of non-human intelligence, of visiting extraterrestrials, ultra-terrestrials, what have you, in their technical vehicles, and then we bridge into the territory of there has been a coordinated effort to exploit, retrieve, and study those vehicles. The legacy program structure is still in such a fragmented state. To get that back under United States government control and traditional oversight channels, you have to pluck out the rot from that organization. And that will involve persecuting the individuals like James Clapper and others who have committed egregious crimes, to uproot them from their seats and bring that effort back into an organized United States government controlled system. And I imagine some of those folks, Terry Phillips, will go kicking and screaming into the goodnight there.
Well, the thing is, if you give blanket amnesty, don't you lose? When you're taking apart a criminal organization, you have to get people to flip on each other.
Mm-hmm.
You bring in the lower guy and you get them to flip on 3 or 4 other guys, and then you bring them in and you get them to flip on somebody else. And there's always a carrot and a stick. If you just go blanket amnesty and there's some kind of anybody can come forward. Doesn't that short circuit Plan A? Just go after them and treat it like a criminal mess that it is?
Kind of, but right now you need those underlings, those small folks, to come forward and provide specific evidence. Let's say you have a Disclosure Day-esque character who has tangible materials from their time within the programs, and now they can come forward because of the NDA waiving, and they know they won't even be prosecuted for various espionage laws from taking that sort of special access program controlled materials or special nuclear material controlled materials or data away from their government handler, government customer, into a congressional testimony of protected disclosure, that they won't be prosecuted for that. So that's sort of the idea for the amnesty right now, with the NDA waiving, not just like James Clapper will excuse him for the heinous crimes he's done and so forth.
Nobody goes to jail anymore.
One thing I'd like to point
I'm with
out,
Andy on this, that my cynicism, these guys don't go to jail. They're all made out of Teflon. Nothing happens. Nothing sticks to them. And I'm not talking about just political. I'm just nobody. No one. There's no consequences for any of this stuff, and there probably never will be. It's kind of weird how that works.
Epstein has shown us that.
Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
Yeah, if you want to build any sort of consequences for this, what they've talked about with this amnesty is that there will be a period of time in which people can come forward. And this is not, I want to tell the viewers, this is not like a dam where there's a hole in the dam and everything rushes through. Most of the people on the other side of this are going to wait as long as possible, assuming that not enough people are going to walk through that hole for that to be exposed, that what they did on the other side. So, and all I'm trying to say here is that these big dogs, the Terry Phillips, I don't want to say that name, but there's a couple of these guys out there that are never going to walk through that door willingly. It's got to be the lower level guys so you can build the RICO case just like you would do in a mob movie.
Right.
But the amnesty period is going to be required for that. But these guys have such gall, such flagrant disregard for the law and for the right of the people to know this, that they're not going to walk through that door. So you're not going to get the big dogs, the James Clappers, with this, but that's the point of it.
You say
somewhere.
You say there's a limited period of time, 60
days.
60 days. Okay, 60 days. 90 days, something like that. Come forward, bring whatever you got. You're clear and safe as long as you meet that requirement. Come in here within 60 days.
And those big boys are always going to wait it out. They're never going to come in during that period.
Yeah.
Rob's absolutely right. It's not a dam breaking all at once. Think of when Dave Grush came forward. Think about how many high-level individuals, whether it be senior flag or general offices, people that would likely support him from behind the scenes saying, hey, go, Dave, you go, do great things, while he himself is falling on the sword, and they're just kind of rooting him on from behind the scenes, never putting their reputation, their career, any sort of risk on the line to support him. So that's kind of equivalent to the dam breaking. There's not going to be a ton of people rushing in at once. It may start with a handful of individuals and slightly grow, but Rob's right that the top dogs are not just going to rush in to go sit with Representative Burleson and some other task force members or members of the administration and say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I've done terrible things against whistleblowers from the perspective of Northrop Grumman and DARPA. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. That's just not realistic.
Well, yeah, you've got misappropriation of funds. You've got all kinds of weird white collar legal shenanigans that have to happen to juggle this hardware around. And then you've got we have a comment here from David Voights, who says the big hang up with amnesty is the predatory stalking programs that are used on witnesses and whistleblowers. It works like Scientology's fair game contract stalking scheme. And he's referring to Scientology. For people who don't know, if you investigate a Scientologist, they will send the whole fucking team after you. They'll hire their own private investigators to come follow you around with cameras. They do it all the time. I've had it done to me actually in Los Angeles.
What?
Yeah, I've had weird Scientology.
You pissed off a Scientologist, bro.
Well, I mean, John Travolta lives like an hour north of me. And it's not him, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I was in LA when it happened.
I'm stalking John
standing
Travolta
outside the Scientology building, and I had a bunch of them come up to me. But yeah, that's a whole nother aspect of this, right? You have people who are, it's not official. There's just weird people following you around as a witness or as a whistleblower, and maybe your car gets the tires slashed, or maybe the brake line's cut. You never really know who's doing it or where it comes from. What about that? If amnesty of some form or fashion is put forward, and you do get some people coming forward to reveal what they know and start that process, how do you keep those people safe and alive?
Well, one is tradecraft and actually getting them in a skiff or in a location to testify. You need all sorts of very robust TSCM, technical surveillance and countermeasures, and possibly physical security. The gang stalking and the constant surveillance, that's really tough to break, because that can be umbrella termed under the term program protection. There's numerous program protection agencies and offices and services within the DoD, within the IC, and these institutions can take very liberal interpretations of whatever the heck they do. So, you know, you could have the Department of Energy Office of Intelligence and Counterintelligence following you. You could have the DARPA Security and Intelligence Directorate following you. You could have AFOSIPJ, Office of Special Projects, following you, or any number. That's just a tiny litany. And they're legally allowed to do that if they feel that their legal special access programs, controlled access programs, covert action programs are being threatened. So that's a pretty hairy one, and also very scary, because there are instances of those services being used to kind of destroy the lives of whistleblowers.
And what's interesting is there's a contractor that handles almost all of that physical security down to the actual facility level, as well as infrastructure, IT infrastructure, and manpower. It's called Mantech, or what used to be known as Manpower Technologies. Definitely a contractor to look into for any of the viewers who want to look at some dirty secrets.
As well as another one called System High, which specializes in insider and outsider threat protection and special program exposure management. System High.
System High. So are these guys, is this like this private security contracted by the government to protect whistleblowers? Is that what it is?
No.
Like the movie Eraser? Arnold Schwarzenegger.
These are contractors. These are the contractors that aid program protection and exposure agencies and services.
Oh.
So
they aid program. So they come after whistleblowers. These are the guys who come after.
Not necessarily provide the infrastructure, provide the materials, provide the software, etc., for these program protection agencies to pursue retaliation or pursue evaluation of insider outsider threats.
That sounds so organized. I feel like it's much more like it's like a call, and it's like, the dossier is in your inbox. Go get them, and then somebody goes.
Can I ask an example? Probably that would fit this is the therapist that saw Dylan Borland, and maybe that's one of the type of resources that this organization may use. Is that accurate?
I don't know.
No. Okay.
Well,
but in terms of like individuals and services trying to entrap Dylan Borland into exposing himself, making statements that he could be pursued legally for, this would probably be ideas and schemes drawn up from exposure management services.
Sorry guys if I'm looking off the screen here. We got Dylan's in the chat. Borland is in our chat today, so I'm trying to see if he'll jump in here.
Dylan.
Shout out Dylan.
Yeah, a true real American hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dylan, if you want to get in on this conversation, let me know and I'll get you a link.
I can DM it to him if you need. So
yeah, if you want to pass it to him, and then if he wants to just jump in, he can. Crypto Kev 1759 says, I think you already answered this, but I'll just read it. Is there any possible legal framework where we can legally compel Clapper or execs from contractors or FFRDCs to come in and answer questions?
Well, we've already had a start to that with Burleson's letter to MITRE, right? It compels MITRE to appoint a C-suite executive or somebody equivalent to be the designated appointee for all MITRE legacy program and UFO materials. So yeah, there are legal ways to compel that, and Burleson's absolutely doing the right and best thing with the legal pursuits and the letter pursuits. It's far more effective than getting on Twitter and just constantly vague posting about how you've seen very existentially shocking things like some other congressmen. Burleson's doing it the right way right now. All hats off to him.
I like Burleson and Burchett's focus on just budget, military budget, budgetary allocation, budgetary spending, like linking it to real table, breakfast table issues for Americans is what gets their attention. And I feel like it's all a lot of fascinating talk, but it doesn't affect the price of groceries. It doesn't affect the price of gas. So it's kind of like not top of mind for the average person, to Andy's point. But they seem to really, I don't know, they get a little fire when they start talking about the military budget and all of the different ways that money gets misallocated and there's no oversight. And I feel like that's probably the most effective wedge that we have, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, and if you see a lot of the news that came off the 9 June press event, a lot of it's talking about some of the budgetary items and misappropriation of funds Dave Grush spoke about, including slush funds and haircuts across programs. So it's good to see kind of a large focus on the monetary siphoning for the programs in recent news.
Well, he also mentioned something else. I don't remember if it was Grush or if it was Burleson or Burchett, but you guys will remember. But someone there during that press conference made a really straightforward statement, which is more or less just the knowledge that there is life that's not originating on Earth that's been coming here in and of itself shouldn't be classified. And there's no real legally defensible way to classify that information. Do you agree with that statement, or does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that was Grush saying about the science of the universe shouldn't be is unlawfully classified, basically. And
how does that actually work, though? Like from them, from within. I mean, is that something that does that actually have any legs? That argument, you can't just classify that. That's not a matter of national security. Just knowing that there's other life out there.
It's broad interpretations of classification systems and statutory regulations and so forth. Let's say you have a craft crash and it gives off small signs of nuclear radiation and it has 3 mangled bodies in it. You can just misclassify all that under special nuclear materials and sequester that away under the Atomic Energy Commission. So one of the biggest problems here is just over interpretations and broad expansion and blanketing of different classifications and regulatory applications. Huge problem.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, just the Cold War followed by the global war on terror hasn't done any good things for that system either.
Yeah. And then you have the whole separate issue of private aerospace companies with their own internal programs that they're self-funding their own R&D from within. So they're now on their own thing, right? That's happening too.
Loosely accountable to their original government customer.
Who's not even there in a few years because they cycle out and somebody else comes in, right? I mean, it's a committee or it's some kind of, is it ever really one person that they're accountable to?
No, there's kind of a tenuous, loose-ish control group that, as epochs pass even more today, is less and less effective and has less and less oversight of the entire program swath.
I think we've got Dylan joining us here. He appears to be in the green room. Dylan, when you're ready.
Whoa.
Yeah, we got Dylan Borland, people. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this too. So is the state of play, Gerb, then that there are just multiple different programs at various stages of whatever doing different things, and it's all kind of a free-for-all between a bunch of different groups?
Yeah, free-for-all and mass duplication. One of the responsibilities of the Special Access Program Oversight Committee, SAPOX SRG Senior Review Group, is to prevent duplication of SAPs across the armed forces and elements of the DoD. That's not done with the legacy program. So you might have a program in the Navy that's trying to reverse engineer an electro-optic cloaking system off a recovered vehicle. And you might have that same program in the Army. They're both at similar stages of development and maturing of that technology application, none of whom share scientists, engineers, industrial security personnel, even PSOs, program security officers, contractor security officers, etc. Very siloed program infrastructure. And without promoting myself in my last video, I kind of outlined how that happened over the decades from 1947 up until basically 1994.
Well, promote the video. Where can people find that video? It's on your channel, and
it is on my channel. It is called the Manhattan Project 2.0.
Manhattan
and it's
Project 2.0.
I got a follow-up. The second part to that coming out here soon.
Let's see here. Okay, Dylan's still getting set up. So then we could have duplication of efforts. We could have duplication of all kinds of different research programs across the board. And meanwhile, the argument is that the Chinese don't have that problem. They're able to put a ton of resources into one issue at a time and just go for it. Is that still the thinking, that we are under some sort of a time crunch here and we need to get this done so that we can force a change in operating procedure?
That's absolutely a concern. And especially with the amount of time that our program portfolio has existed, it's had a lot more time to mature, but also the fracturing of that sort of ecosystem of programs has led to a very fractured system. But yeah, a dictatorship and a centralized leadership like China, like Russia, are peer adversaries. They are not subject to kind of bureaucratic red tape and nonsense as we are. You know, Xi Jinping says, you know, I want to divert $1 trillion US dollars to this program a year. It's going to get done, and people are going to listen to him.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting dynamic, because it puts China in a position to take a leadership stance on this issue that really would make us look kind of foolish and goofy.
Yeah, but also kind of like a game of chicken. Who wants to be the first to reveal what they have? Even if you reveal, I have a Tic Tac, even if the Chinese were to come out and say, hey, we have a recovered Tic Tac from 2009, and us Americans were able to kind of assess that intelligence and find out the Chinese had a Tic Tac, and we may have found a Tic Tac, but also found ways in which we can kind of counter Tic Tac flights. Then it's sort of this chess match of who has the asymmetric warfare capabilities, and takes that Sub Rosa Cold War. Sub Rosa, go read Rob Jones's excellent paper, and amplifies it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like electronic warfare. You never want to reveal those frequencies if you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Let's play chicken.
But also, there's a geopolitical angle here, which would be something along the lines of, you know, one could make the argument that the United States has been involved in a great amount of conflict over the last 30, 40 years. China has not. That's just a fact. China's demonstrated to be more peaceful in terms of, like, they're not invading countries. They're not blowing shit up. They're just building infrastructure and doing their own thing. One could make the argument that China is actually a more rational actor for an NHI to approach and deal with. They seem to be more cohesive. Their government's more organized. They're able to get things done. I've heard this argument made a number of times, and I have a hard time arguing against it. If the Chinese wanted to step forward and say, we're taking Taiwan, and guess what? We're friends with the NHI, and we've got some technology, and we're going to demonstrate something. And then they just basically leapfrogged the United States as the world global technology leader, right? Just by making that statement. They're sort of be putting
potentially. I'd like to push back on two things that you said there, Clint. One, the idea that China is this cohesive nation that operates all in the same lockstep, which they certainly are not. I would advise that, you know, anybody who's interested in learning about China, go and look up Dwarkesh Patel's podcast. He's had a couple of China experts on there over the course of the past 1.5 to 2 years, and the picture that they paint is drastically different than what I expected personally. I expected China to be this monolithic government that has this top-down authority that tells you when and where to be, and you're there. In reality, there's a much greater separation of both the federal Chinese government's powers and the provincial powers. There's a lot of battling back and forth for authority within those realms between various ministers. So it's not exactly the same. And the other thing that I would say is that China is not necessarily more peaceful than the United States. They haven't engaged in nearly as many conflicts with, other nations on a, trading ammunition level. But, what they've gone out and done through Belt and Road Initiative is building things for other nations, but in a way that debt leverages them in a specific way that keeps them beholden to the Chinese nation for a very long time. And debt leveraged in such a way that they have no hope of repaying that in any reasonable fashion. So it creates an imbalance of power that is not exactly what many would refer to as peaceful.
To be fair, though, I mean, the United States has done that forever. The World Bank does that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
Absolutely.
just how business is done. You go in, you loan a country a bunch of money, then you use that money to pay your own companies to build infrastructure. So it comes right back to you. Now they owe you, and then you can come back later and repossess whatever you want. That's just been the playbook forever.
Yeah.
In terms of open military conflict, though, I mean, nobody comes close to the United States. I mean, we that's our business. That's what we do. That's the whole problem here, right? The military-industrial complex is making essentially policy decisions. In a sense, it's sort of like we just have to always be in conflict in some way.
Rob, what's that podcast about China you said? Could you say that again? I'd love to write it down.
Dwarkesh Patel. He is an excellent podcaster.
How do you spell?
You should look at here. I'll type it out in the chat.
Okay. Oh, Dwarkesh. I got it right the first time. There we go. Dwarkesh Patel.
Yeah, that guy rocks. You should definitely look up his content, and then also another YouTuber by the name of Asianometry, if you're interested in China content.
Interesting. Okay. So, that's interesting because the argument we are always told with AI, right? If you flip this conversation around to AI, the argument is the Chinese are this monolithic, top-down nation that can just throw trillions of dollars at anything they want and they can just make shit happen. That's why we have to unleash our AI tech companies and let them run free and wild and develop whatever it is that they're working on to the fullest maximum capacity. And then, so you're saying it's not exactly that simple. There's more going on here.
A lot more nuance to it than that. And I'm not the person to describe all of that, but Dwarkesh has entire episodes on that exact question. And it's a very, very nuanced series of answers that you'll get from various different individuals. So
I'm curious if we're in an unstable enough situation where it's like there are so many players on the board now holding pieces of reverse engineered technology or recovered craft or artifacts or whatever. Do we even have a sense of how many different players there are on the game board? It's not just the United States, Russia, and China. It's the United States, Russia, China,
Five Eyes.
The whole Five Eyes, plus any corporate people that are doing their own thing. Secret space program could be a thing, maybe not. We don't know.
Not necessarily. You can with high confidence trace who and what is involved. We kind of know from the Kona Blue PSAP transfer back in the early 2010s that specific old legacy services or agencies like the CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology don't really want to allow new players into the fold. So I do think just based on capabilities of specific contractors or services and so forth, you can make an educated estimate who is involved in the programs. Also, you have to realize the US government isn't that smart. A good majority of the time, the exact infrastructure agencies or services you would think would be involved in the legacy programs are absolutely involved. The US government's not that smart. You're not going to carve out an entirely separate sort of military or intelligence national programs. You're going to use specific individuals at NASIC, at Air Force Test and Evaluation, at Army Test and Evaluation Command, et cetera, and those kind of silos built out over time.
So when we hear stories from the deep lore, like, obviously Bob Lazar's story is probably the most well-known of going to Area 51, and it's this huge military complex, and there's like, it presents one gets the sense that this is a military run operation that's being overseen with, by various branches of the military at this base. But are we to understand that that's not necessarily the case, and that could be a mixed bag of corporate partners and different people all just working at that base, working out of that location?
It depends on what time epoch you're working with. If you're talking about Bob right now, and let's say Bob was at S4,
Yeah.
and there were Air Force people, Navy folks, et cetera there, this would be before 1994, where the full control group, as far as I understand, was wrestled out of predominant United States government and National Security Council hands into a quasi-private and government control group. So pre and post 1994 is kind of where you need to gauge. And then there's other milestones with how you can evaluate who and what players might have been involved in specific singular programs.
Take us back to 1994. What happened in 1994 where the program was wrestled out of the government's hands and into a quasi?
So during the course of the Cold War, there were several instances of expansions or contractions of special access programs. These are certain executive orders. Nixon's 1973, I think, Executive Order 11652 comes to mind, in which the U.S. Congress was baffled at how agencies that shouldn't have classification authority could just stamp on top secret code word access and kind of carve out their own crazy programs. Eisenhower initiated this back when he established the modern day classification systems. And then Executive Order 12356 and National Security Decision Memorandum 159 under Reagan kind of forced the programs to kind of get creative, hide in cover offices, hide in cover programs, et cetera. But come around 1994, Bill Clinton had a massive appetite to disclose, and he was very keen to kind of get to the bottom of the program structure. And after all of these special access program expansions and reforms, which kind of caused the legacy structure to mold and adapt, plus a very high-profile president getting real close to wanting to disclose, in 1994, the legacy program structure was wrestled out of U.S. control and put in a group of just over 24 quasi-industry and government people. This is not the Majestic 12, though. But yeah, that happened in 1994, and you can see kind of that infrastructure being laid if you look up the Special Access Program Oversight Committee being formed and their powers being greatly expanded upon in 1994 under then DepSecDef Bill Perry. You can kind of see that infrastructure being laid, as well as some really interesting permanent members on the SAPOC and Senior Review Group. Paul Kaminsky comes to mind as one, but yeah, I would look there for some interesting infrastructure analysis.
So this was a controlled, well-planned, well-executed rollover of this program into a quasi-public-private? No? Or was it chaotic and messy?
The breakdown started in 1977 with Jimmy Carter kind of pushing more towards government transparency. And then in 1983, you had the revelations of the Yellow Fruit Unacknowledged Special Access Program. This kind of led to the Iran-Contras and so forth. The domino that kicked off the Contras was Yellow Fruit. And this was an unaccountable, unacknowledged special access program within the Army. And there were court-martials that occurred from this because essentially a lieutenant colonel under the Army Assistant Chief of Staff for Intelligence faked retirement and set up his own kind of agency cutout company through which the Army was doing classified operations and supporting the Nicaraguan Contras.
You're talking about Ollie North?
Yeah, no. Oliver North was the Contra. This was Lieutenant Colonel Duncan. I can't remember his first name. But that 1983 kind of exposure of USAP led to the National Security Decision Memorandum 159, which really kind of cracked down on the programs and involved some program elements not to be exposed through audits like Yellow Fruit was, to start hiding in different cover programs and cover offices. This can actually be seen under the tenure of Edward C. Aldrich, who was Secretary of the Air Force and Director of the NRO from 1981 to 1987, where he took what were called outside activities, which were weird, amorphous activities outside of the Air Force that the Air Force had administrative and operational control over, and stuffed them under the administrative assistant to the Secretary of the Air Force, bypassing their component level Special Access Program central office. So whether that's legacy program or not, by the way, it is, that's a prime example of a cover program being created in that year.
Christ on a cracker. This is so complicated. I'm glad you're here, man. To sort this out for us. We need you.
Gerb, can you just say all that again? I was taking notes, mate, in my pen.
I absolutely could, Andy. It's very fascinating to me. I love that. I love this stuff. It's really interesting.
By the way, we want to say Rob Jones had to duck out. He had to actually go do his real job. So he said bye to everybody.
I'm sorry I was waffling while he had to leave.
No, it's okay. This was great. It's so many layers and it's so twisted and convoluted, and from the outside, I find it fascinating that there is a group of the Congressional UAP Caucus that's trying to pull this apart. I'm just wondering, do they get any support from other members of Congress that we don't see publicly making statements on this? Is there a wider support base for this, or is it just the UAP caucus as we see them? Because that seems pretty small.
There's support.
There is support. Is there going to be more support coming out publicly?
I would hope so. I would hope so, especially with kind of growing serious media coverage. And like you guys talk about every week, the topic going mainstream, I would hope to see more Congress folk engaged, specifically on the House. The Senate's already had their turn. Gillibrand, Rubio, they failed tremendously. So it's up to the House folks right now.
Wow.
Can I come in on that, Clint?
Anytime, please jump in. You don't have to raise your hand.
It's really no. I like to be polite now and again. You guys have been really good talking really big picture. I'm curious to drill it down to kind of lower level a bit. We've got all these high profile individuals now. So it seems from 2020, you had Elizondo was out there and there wasn't really a big, God, that really puts you off, doesn't it, when you go full screen?
Sorry. I'm trying to make it. It's for the viewers, guys. It's not for you.
Yeah, that fucking face is terrifying. Poor viewers. So as opposed to Gerb, but then I'd love the other guy's thoughts as well. You had Elizondo in 2020 as the kind of figurehead, going around all the podcasts and the media. And it was like ufology kind of got behind Elizondo as here's the guy who was part of this program, OSAP, ATIP, all that jazz. Now it seems we've got so many high profile figures across journalists, tech bro podcasters, congressmen, senators, you name it, military officials, scientists. Is it easier now than ever for gatekeepers and secret keepers to get to individuals and shape the narrative across the board here? Because there are so many people to now get at, and that's what I would do if I was those guys personally.
I would say the most dangerous time epoch was 2017 to 2023, where specifically the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence was trying to gather a roster of whistleblowers. Most of these individuals were not known at this point, and so there was an inherent danger at not being named and not coming forward. But we've seen this as well with Matthew Sullivan recently in his passing. Of course, there's it's an active FBI investigation, I believe, but there is a school of thought that was a planned ending. So with the amount of exposure, I think you're right that there could be an easier way for program exposure management systems to kind of control the narrative. I think we saw that with Matt Gaetz, right? When he said that an Army E4 at Eglin came in his office, not in an official briefing in Army uniform, but not in an official military capacity, and told him about a hybrid breeding program.
An E4?
Yeah,
fuck out of here, E4. No one wants to hear from
you. The whole Elizondo coming forward was a very carefully curated management campaign. And that sort of got caught on the back foot once Dave Grush came forward and kind of had to reassess how that certain campaign spoke about recovered biologics, recovered craft, crash retrievals. So it's been a really amorphous, interesting, kind of evolving way to keep up. What is that, Mr. Justin?
Hold that up again, Justin. I'm going to go full screen. What do you have?
Oh,
E4 Mafia. Sorry, Justin. I didn't mean to shit on you. E4 Mafia. That's right. You and Rob, right? E4 Mafia.
I passed the E4 Mafia, but I had that while I was in.
You had it while you were in. Yeah. It just seems like an E4 wouldn't know very much. I just don't know what, I could walk into a...
you can't say for sure. But I agree fully with JD from Philly in the chat that this was that individual JP who went on the Redacted podcast who said those statements to Matt Gaetz. I can't. I'm not making an accusation. I don't know for sure, but I do think that is the person.
Dylan in the chat. Dylan, I see your chat. He's in our private chat. He's got some thoughts on this. Don't think my mic is working. Oh, okay. So Dylan's here, but he might not be able to join in the conversation, but he's just hanging out with us.
He said we need to add him.
Add him. Let's see here. He says his mic's muted. I had you up here before, Dylan. So you're here, but if you demute yourself or unmute yourself, you should be able to join the combo.
There he is.
Oh, of course. Gerb, a couple things. I love y'all. Pleasure to be here. Sorry for not being on the camera. I'm going to be short and sweet because I know everybody's after me. I'm working on the HVAC. It's flooded. Gerb, in the future, we need to do like a year-long exercise where we go through history because the things you say that I'm aware of, that you're aware of, that you and you still need to call me back, by the way, buddy. But We got a whole like history bachelor's degree lesson in academics to go through this. Pavel, pleasure. Clint, pleasure. Andy, talked to you earlier. I hope that Jim was well. I love you guys. This has been fun. I'm learning a lot. Gerb, it's always exciting to hear you talk because I know where you're going with things, and I laugh to myself all the time when I hear you speak, buddy. So thank you.
So let's do this, Dylan, without revealing details or anything. I'll call you as soon as I get my next dang project done, which is in the next few days, and then I'll plan out a time that we can sit down for a couple hours, up to 10 hours, and hash stuff out.
Oh, my man, we're good. By the way, thank you for the Stellate contact. Pavel, I know you wanted me to pick me up, but I was dead. I was hunting Grinches. I was hunting Grinches in Pioneer Town. Jeremy's going to be pissed. I'm officially deputized. I can deputize everybody in California. Jeremy's going to have a shit fit. I said it. But no, I miss you guys. I love you. Yeah, man, it was a blast. It was a blast to be with you guys. I wish we had more time. The Magic Show was a blast. So much you guys are talking about with China and Indo-PACOM and AI and technological advancements. I mean, these are the conversations that need to be had. I think, like I said, when I was in chat just listening while I'm working on my house, you know, I just want to pop in and say hi. I think since I'm here, I'll say this. I really hope people don't forget about the past and present whistleblowers, because it seems like a lot of us are going to be brushed under the rug. And I hope people remember that. And that's what we're trying to fix until we can get restitution and accountability. You know, Gerb, you touched on it. And I'll be blunt. The facts are the facts. Crimes were committed against whistleblowers in the last 6 months. It's documented. Jeremy and George reported on it. You guys want whistleblowers. We all need whistleblowers to make this go forward. We need to support them. So that's really it. But I'm just enjoying it, man. I'm just listening. So I love y'all.
100%, man. And Dylan, you are a hero. All of the whistleblowers who have come forward are heroes. And just thank you for doing what you have been doing and for continuing to stay with it, despite all of the bullshit that you guys have to put up with, because it is tremendous. I don't think people really appreciate it. Jeremy actually at Contact did a really good job of trying to flesh that out for people in a way. And I think that he really succeeded. Dylan, did you have any thoughts you wanted to add on the press conference that happened this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad Dave is in the position he is. Dave's busting his butt. He's an E4. He's got oak leaves. You know, we were joking about E4 Mafia. I have my own comments. I'll crack my jokes. But Dave's a beast. He's busting his tail. Burleson. I'm glad that this is being held accountable, and I'm glad that you guys are covering it. And I think without trying, if you do not cover it in the public media campaign, and you don't try to reach out people who don't cover it, you're kind of SOL. Dave is the man. Dave is busting his tail. Mike, Jake, Matt, everybody's doing what they can. Jeremy, Gerb, George. You know, you're talking about people who have been in this for years. You know, we'll see. I hope the executive branch takes them up. I hope Congress actually, you guys were talking about other congressional reps and senators getting involved. I hope they do it. You know, one of the things that I've been kind of talking about loosely behind the scenes is Chuck McCullough called this a constitutional crisis after the ICIG. And Chuck represented Dave Grush and other whistleblowers, and I'll leave it there. But when you go to Seoul and you say Congress has been informed, this is now a constitutional issue, people forget the U.S. Congress by 2/3 vote can override the president. So it doesn't matter what the executive branch does. You get 2/3 of Congress on board, they can do what they want. So, Gerb?
Dylan, do you have any concern there about wielding of unitary executive theory? Because, of course, Eisenhower and Truman used just that to hide away the programs.
Gerb, you and I are on the same page, buddy. This is why I said we need to go and do like an actual collegiate course on this. You and I are on the same page. All I'm saying is if Congress had 2/3 majority and they were serious about restitution and protection, this would be done. End of discussion. It would be done. If you get rounds and, you know, Rubio is now over in the executive, but Rubio is getting an 8. Schumer, you get all these people on board and say, we're doing this, it's done. Like, again, it's put your money where your mouth is. I'm not going to criticize them. I know Burleson's busting his tail. Luna and Burchett and Moskowitz. Moskowitz is awesome. You know, I think at my hearing, he said, in my opinion, he said the most intelligent thing you can say in regards to this is Moskowitz made the comment, we don't know what the truth is, but we know we're being lied to. And I keep telling people, don't look at what is said and done, look at what isn't said and what isn't done. And, you know, I think it's going in the right direction. Dave is a BA from PA, like myself. And, you know, hopefully we get there. My concern, I think, Gerb, you know other people that are whistleblowers that I don't even know. I think the concern is if the toothpaste goes back in the tube, a lot of people are going to face some really more difficult times. And that's what Matt and I and other people are trying to build, is to insulate them from. So, yeah, but of course Dylan, they hit it, man.
I don't want to put you in a weird spot, but this did come up at Contact. Can you talk about that project, the one you just mentioned?
Vanguard. They said the name.
You said, can you talk about Vanguard?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of Matt. Matt and I are doing this joint with other whistleblowers. What I can say is exactly what we did say. We want to provide mental, physical, spiritual, financial help to whistleblowers in the interim. I mean, you know, I'll spell it out real easy. When the CIA and ODNI commit felonies against whistleblowers and they're not held accountable, what are we really talking about anymore? How can anybody expect a whistleblower to come forward and say, I'm working on this craft at this location, and they're going to lose their job, their family's going to be harassed, they're going to be doxxed? Why would anybody in their right mind do that? You know,
it's like trying to testify against the mob. I must feel basically the same, right? Except this mob is everywhere, and they know where you are.
Exactly, and this goes back to, you know, this exists as a stopgap. The hope is restitution and lawsuits follow. Matt and I should not be building an org with Jeff Nuttaselli and other whistleblowers, and in coordination with the other whistleblowers I don't want to name, to try and help out everybody in the interim. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that people have lost their apartments. People are at risk of losing their homes. People have been doxxed. We're sharing money to try and make sure they have groceries for their kids. That's an insane situation. And you can't say, we're going to protect you, whistleblowers, come forward. And after you come forward, this happens. And it's kind of like, we don't know what to do. That's no bashing. That's no ill will. Everybody's trying to figure this out together. But that's the idea, is to just have a stopgap in hopes that legislation can be done and we can begin lawsuits. That's really it. You know,
when this project is launched fully, when Vanguard goes live, I guess, what is the best vision that you guys have on how everyday regular people who support what you're doing can help? Is it something that they're going to be able to just like donate to, or is this going to be like a traditional nonprofit where they can, I don't know, get involved in some way, or how does that actually work?
I mean, we're looking at things again, like when you have spouses and you have children who are watching their parents and their husbands and wives go through this. It's trying to get people to contribute. You know, therapists for family members would be great. We need CPAs. We need nurses. We need physical therapists. You know, ironically, Matt and I have a joke, is in a perfect world, this organization wouldn't exist because Congress and the executive and legislative branch would already be doing this for us. When you talk about crimes committed against whistleblowers, they come forward and highlight the crimes that are being done. This is why I've said I'm not a UFO whistleblower in so much as I'm a crime and corruption whistleblower. I came forward because I was concerned about people's safety, which you guys brought up Matthew Sullivan. It's pretty clear that's a real thing that's happening. Dave's aware, I'm aware, most of us are aware. In a perfect world, this is a temporary stopgap and this organization doesn't exist after 6 months at most. Let's get legislation passed. Let's hold these companies, let's hold these agencies accountable. Let's move forward. You know, what you asked me about helping is, as I've said before, I'm no hero. I'm not I don't like being thanked. I don't want to be public. I tell everybody thank the others. Dave went and stuck his neck out. Jeff Nuttacelli, Mike Herrera, Jake Barber, Matthew Brown. Add the names. Go and add them. I came forward because I just happen to know what was done to me, and I happen to know what was done to others, and I just happen to know about UFOs. The reality is like I've said before, let's get the government accountable. Let's hold these people accountable. When Jeremy and George are saying felonies are committed against whistleblowers for blowing the whistle and protected whistleblower testimony, and that information is leaked to the public, I have a difficult time going and saying, yeah, great, let's go show some more IR videos. The conversation should be, who's going to be held accountable at the CIA and ODNI? That's my point in this.
Bravo. Well said. Thanks, Dylan.
What's
Guys,
also,
if you're watching at home,
sorry.
please just hit that like button for Dylan, and it boosts the stream and sends it out to more people. It's really helpful if you could do that, if you haven't already. Go ahead. Sorry.
what also is particularly disturbing about this situation is, you know, I know quite a roster of prospective whistleblowers. These people watch the space. They watch the UFO space, keep up with what's going on. These people would not in their right mind in 1,000 years testify or give testimony when they see the sort of treatment that happens to folks like Dylan, Matt, Dave Grush. Where'd everybody go?
Oh, we're here. I'm just
well.
Hey,
wait, Gerb. I have a nasty habit of this, but I appreciate you saying that because what you just said is the point. Why would anybody working in these programs come forward and say, I want my wife to be doxxed. I want her to lose her job. I want people to know where I live. I want to lose my own job. I want to pull my 401k. What you just said is exactly what this org is. We want to be able to make sure that people have a financial way to survive in the interim until people are held accountable. And what you said is the highlight. That's all we care about. Is once you become a whistleblower, how can we help you if the worst case scenario happens? Be prepared for your photos to be shown online. Be prepared for your family to be contacted. Here's what we experienced. Here's where we went. Here's who did what to us. And, you know, UAPDF and Soul and SCU and New Paradigm are all working their avenues. We want to work with them. But what you just said, Gerb, is the highlight of it. Mm-hmm. You're exactly right. Why would anybody come forward as a whistleblower watching what happened to Dave, what happened to Mike, what happened to Matt, what happened to me? Why would anybody do that? It's bananas.
Yeah, that's why I think this press conference was so great, Dave and Burleson, putting the ball in the executive branch's court right now. You know, figure out a way to waive NDAs and start thinking about protection for individuals. Because, you know, some of the folks I know that would even consider testifying, even before going public, they already get constant reminders that their pensions, their financial livelihood are in danger. So then when they see kind of the financial struggles and the amount of financial hardships you, Matt, Dave have been threatened with or been met with, that money, that the way these people can't live or take care of their family is a huge pain point. Absolutely huge.
What 100%, and that's the irony, and this is the other joke is, and you and I have loosely talked about this, I've talked with other people, which is, you know, I already pulled my 401k once. I live well below my means, and I did not prepare for everything that happened to me to happen. But the irony is they're creating their own worst enemy. You're going to threaten me with the death penalty, a treason while committing felonies against me and others. I have no income, and I'm living well below my means. Why? What's insane to me, Gerb, is they had a way to do this. The people that know what's going on, they had a way to do this to where everything would have been smooth sailing. And if they came, so when I was working for BAE, if you came to me and said, Dylan, here's what you encountered, here's what's going on, we got your back, here's who's in charge, here's what we're doing, it, sign the NDA, I would have signed it. And I can't speak on behalf of anybody else but myself, but all of us are patriotic, loving, constitutional Americans. If you did that with Dave and Matt and everybody else at the right time, I would bet Mike Herrera, Marine, I would bet almost all of us would have said, sounds great, Lieutenant Colonel, America, hell yeah. Mm-hmm. Instead, you go and do this crooked side-eye beak bullcrap. And now here we are where we came forward to say, this is what we experienced, this is what we know, and it just gets worse. And, you know, Dave and I have talked about this loosely, which is the millennials and the younger Gen X are the ones who really got screwed in this.
Yeah.
No offense to the boomers do have the pensions. The boomers do have the real estate. The boomers do have this stuff. I'm not attacking them. They're facing their own issues. But it's kind of different taking out a 32-year-old young man or woman when their whole career is living paycheck to paycheck in DC when rent is $3,200 a month. And it's like, I just lost everything, you know? And I think you know that. Most of us know that.
Yeah, you make a good point too about kind of the millennials and Gen Zers missing out. That's why I think it was so smart when Dave first went public. He did that interview with Jesse Michaels and like sat down with a group of Gen Zers and millennials trying to get younger people involved and kind of interested in the topic to really understand and have an appetite for the full extent of what's going on here.
Dylan, can I just ask you, mate, is there anything more you guys can do, like yourself, Matt, Dave, that would almost be a push button in case of emergency if shit really hit the fan?
You know, I have no idea. And I do a very good job of just trying to speak for myself. What I can say is God, family, country. I've done everything in my power to serve this nation in America and serve humanity, which comes after my nation. Unfortunately, while being a citizen of the world, I'm a citizen to humanity. I swore an oath. And this is why Mike Herrera and I laugh and get along. What everybody else has done, they have done. I'm going to quote Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. And Gerb, you're probably going to laugh your butt off, and Pavel, you probably will too. And McMinnville, when they're talking about leaked classified whistleblower testimony about power sources and hieroglyphs, what the hell are we talking about anymore, gentlemen? Let's be clear. What are we talking about anymore?
Yeah. And that's not an isolated incident, right? Like, recall Mike Herrera, he even got his memorandum for record when he testified to Arrow specifically. There was that whole procedure was built to kind of entrap Mike, just to suck out the information he knew. If you recall Mike Herrera, I think on my channel, he was talking about Sean Kirkpatrick being in the briefing. The only question Sean Kirkpatrick asked during like the whole hour and a half briefing was about the paramilitary operators Mike saw. Who were they? Who were they? Who were they? And then Arrow used that testimony to lie about Mike's testimony in the Arrow Historical Report, Volume 1. So whether it's lying about whistleblowers, trying to entrap them, or reclassify witness testimony, institutions and services like Arrow have done an absolutely horrendous job.
Yeah, I agree, Gerb. I mean, Mike is awesome. I love Mike. I hear you. I mean, again, I think most of you guys up here know me well enough that what I care about are people, their families, their kids. I want people to survive, and I want the truth to be known. It's heinous what was done to us. It's heinous what is still being done to us. It's heinous that we have to live with this. You're absolutely right, Gerb. That is what they did. You know, this is already out there, so I'll talk about this. When I went to Arrow, they wanted me to talk to Sean Kirkpatrick, and Sean Kirkpatrick was MIA conveniently. I can't tell you where he was, but he did not want to be there with me.
You know, he was probably signing the position for his new CTO position of Defense and Intelligence Programs out at Oak Ridge, which he got rewarded with in December of 2023, right after he left Arrow.
Is that what's going on with him? I mean, why?
Well, no.
A guy who seems to be completely like over all of this, he is everywhere. He seems to be constantly giving talks about how there's nothing to see here. I thought this case was closed for him.
My educated guess with Kirkpatrick was because he was a career scientist, bureaucrat, really loved the stuff he did. When he headed Arrow, when he was appointed by his good buddy Ron Moultrie and others, I think Kirkpatrick, again, just my opinion, but this is an educated guess, was retroactively briefed into elements of the legacy program so he could do program exposure assessment for Arrow. And when he left Arrow, he was rewarded with a super juicy position out at Oak Ridge, who his job listing was deleted off the internet, by the way, really curious. And now, as of 2025, his company, Nonlinear Solutions LLC, is subcontracting for the MITRE Corporation under U.S. Spacecom. So Kirkpatrick made out like a bandit, and yet he still has time to hop on podcasts and defame whistleblowers.
That's really interesting. Really interesting.
Which is, again, insane is why. Like this, you know, Gerb, again, most of you guys know me at this point to some extent, which is at the end of the day, we're covering up, we're not alone. Like, yeah, the technology, the patents are worth trillions. But a simple fact of just saying we're not alone, what are we really covering up and why? You know, this is why I say don't look at what is done and what is said. Look at what isn't done and what isn't said. I mean, this is an insane situation we're in. And the problem for me is the whistleblowers and their families are the ones facing the brunt of it. And I cannot in good faith tell whistleblowers come forward. And Gerb, this goes back to Vanguard when you guys ask me about what can be done. You know, Gerb, we're relying on people like you, like Jeremy, like Greer, whoever. If you're a real whistleblower, how can we bring you forward? How we can give you to Dave? How can we give you to Burleson? I can in good faith tell them, yeah, stick your neck out right now, because I know what all of us have faced. And that's the problem. That's why we're standing up this org. This shouldn't exist, but it's the situation. We care about everybody, and that's where we're at.
It is, especially with the baggage here. You know, the Senate, God bless the staff on SSCI, but Gillibrand and Rubio were supposed to be doing this as well, taking in whistleblower testimony and protecting them. And they completely failed at their directive, and in turn got many people exposed and hurt. And so how can, after that sort of baggage from 2017 to 2023, it's difficult to also encourage people to come forward after how many people got hurt and kind of left in the dust there.
But I guess I see what you're saying, Dylan, is more or less like the big truth can come out. Like the big question of we're not alone can be answered, right? And that's not violating any national security issues. That's not really putting anybody in a weird, uncomfortable position. But does that open the floodgates? Once you pull that thread, doesn't the whole sweater come unraveled?
I mean, I've done a very careful job of what I've said publicly, especially with weaponized. And again, I didn't even want to be public. After the ICIG, I went back to work. The only reason you guys know about me is because I lost my job. Had I never lost my job, you guys wouldn't know about me unless you guys were connected in back rooms. Almost every religion throughout history believes in some type of other entity that has interacted with us. Call them aliens, call them angels, demons, it doesn't matter. 7 billion people on Earth pretty much have a religion that believes in some type of other sentient life. My point is that the fact that you will not confirm that we have confirmation, we as modern humanity are not the only ones who accomplish what we've accomplished, and others have accomplished more, is such a mind screw that where my mind goes as an intelligence analyst is, well, why won't you say it? Now, you kept the floodgates closed. You talk about opening the kimono. You can literally still say that and still keep the kimono closed. They kept the kimono closed on even saying we're not alone for all these years. So my point is why not say it? It's an honest question. Why not say we're not alone? Why has China, Russia, Israel, Five Eye, why has everybody kept their mouth shut? It's an interesting question.
That's a great question. It's my question. Why wouldn't another mover, another player on the board make a first move? Why not China? Why not the Vatican? Vatican could make a statement. They have some of the best astronomers in the world working for the Vatican.
To be fair, you're talking to a devout Catholic, so I'm going to tiptoe this one, gentlemen. But I've been clear. I've never said extraterrestrial intelligence exists. I've never seen proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. But what I would say to you is Catholic priests and bishops and cardinals within the history of Catholicism have been clear we're not alone. By definition, at the end of Catholic Mass, we say a prayer to St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, protect us from the snares of the devil. That is not a demon. That is an archangel. By definition, is a non-human intelligence. So I get what you're saying, but this is my irony when you have Christians go and say it's all demonic. By your very definition of a religion, if you understand Christian history, you already believe in NHI that aren't demonic. So again, you're getting into one of the things I've been pressing, not only is the crimes committed against whistleblowers, it's the PSYOP being spun on the public, which is people are being fed BS to convince themselves of what they heard without looking at the information. And you're fighting an uphill battle against Mockingbird, Northwoods, the CIA, ODNI, international community, big business, banks, Lockheed Martins. You're fighting everything at one time, and that's where you're at.
Funny you mentioned Mockingbird.
Yeah. Is there a chance, though, that this is being kept secret at that high level? Because like Clint saying he likes that question around why is everyone keeping it secret, that there's a good reason it's kept secret.
Yeah, Andy. I mean, I brought this up before. The scary part is that if this was all sunshine and rainbows, you could say we're not alone. What freaks me out is if this was good news, they would go and sell it because there's a profit there. The fact they don't sell it freaks me out.
There you go.
Yeah.
This guy, he gets it.
One of the questions too is how many sovereign nations, countries, or institutions have a kind of agreements with each other to keep the genie in the bottle here. One, the former Brazilian defense minister who Jesse Michaels talked to kind of said, hey, if the U.S. releases their documents and files on UFOs, we will as well. But also, back in the 70s, within the SALT treaties, the U.S. and the then Soviet Union had agreements. They had red phone MoLink hotlines, Adam 222 and Adam 333 nuke flash codes to alert the Soviet Union, or for them to alert us Americans if there were UFOs that could be misconstrued as ICBMs or kind of a nuclear launch.
Yeah.
Who's to say there weren't further classified agreements between the US and USSR to say, hey, if something lands in kind of your territory, you get it, it lands in our territory, but let's keep this genie in the bottle because we don't think yet China or other adversaries, other sovereign nations have this technology yet. So I think that's also an open possibility.
This is the thing that gets me, though. It's like the argument that that the threat narrative argument is it's arguably the easiest one to sell to people because we buy it all the time. We bought it about after 9/11. We bought the threat narrative. We bought it about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq when Saddam Hussein didn't have any weapons of mass destruction. We go to war all the time on that basis. So we know that works. And if you wanted to keep people on board with what you were doing and funding the cover up and continuing to just funnel money into this and probably even get more, wouldn't it make more sense to say, yeah, we're not alone? And guess what? It's a big, scary fucking universe out there. And we have we just figured out how to build bows and arrows. So we're going to need some help. We got to get all the scientists on board. We're going to need more funding. We're going to push for. That seems to me more effective in terms of achieving a positive end result for the people in control of the program than trying to hold back the tide that is clearly impossible to do forever. This is a losing fight. Sooner or later, information is going to be free.
Well, yeah, and again, I want to be careful because I have so many thoughts, and this is why I joke with Gerb. We just need to open a college on the history of this stuff, and I mean it, man. This would be years in the making, but I have the answers that I want. My questions regard the government and the programs they did. So, Tuskegee Airmen, what were you doing with psychic spies and what were you doing with genetic modification? This goes back to leaked phone calls in 2017 by people in this space, which I'm sure you guys are all connecting real quick. Gerb, I see the smile on your face, buddy. I'll leave it here. I look at intent. So the way my brain works is this. What are the facts? I don't care about the opinions of the facts. What are the facts? Something's here. It's interacting with humans. It conceals itself. It goes to military bases. It goes to nuclear sites. Why are you doing that? And then you look at, okay, we recovered things. Hypothetically, if you believe it, I know where I'm at with this. And I think Gerb and Pavel and most of you guys up here know where you're at with it. So now you go to, okay, we recovered it. Well, now let's go back to 2023 and Dave Grush with agreements. So my point is that if you look at the facts and you accept basic things as true, whether you know them firsthand or not, if you believe them based on the research, and Gerb, this is where you do a good job. You go through all of this and you see what's out there in the public record and you break it down. I do not know, real quick, I do not know how anybody can say the intent of the majority of what we're seeing is beneficial. At most, I think you could say it's clearly an operation for preparation of the battlefield. And I hate saying it. I know people freak out because of the threat narrative, but it's pretty difficult to argue against it, in my opinion.
I am so glad you said that, because I don't disagree with that statement at all. And it's weird that no one else is talking about it. I don't know why it's not discussed more.
It's fear.
Fear, maybe. And also maybe we just haven't gotten that far yet. I think that's what we're trying to do, at least on this channel, is like get to that part of the conversation. What are they doing? They're already here. We know that. Okay, let's move on. Why are they here? But this idea that they have to act in a clandestine way. Clearly their actions are organized and somehow are, I don't know, if that is an organized clandestine operation that is practically invisible to the average person most of the time, then maybe their numbers aren't that great. Maybe they're not as powerful as we're supposed to believe that they are. This whole idea of like, oh, they're unstoppable. They're like gods. They could snap their fingers and we'd all be dead. Maybe, or maybe not. It certainly doesn't appear that way. If they had that kind of capability, I don't understand why they would be so cagey about everything that they're doing.
Agreed.
You could make the argument, like if you came to me as Joe Q Public and you said, look, we've made contact. The reason we couldn't tell you is because we didn't know what we were dealing with, but it's been 79 years now. We do. Here's what we're dealing with. It's a mixed bag. There's some bad guys out there. There's some good guys out there, but it's risky and we don't know who's who. It's all new territory for us. So we are going to build our defenses. We have to assimilate this technology. We have to advance our military capabilities. We have to be able to go toe to toe with a civilization that's got a 10,000 year head start on us. And that's the problem. And then you just say, like, that's where we're at. And people would buy into that. They'd go, okay.
Clint, you're assuming...
Preach.
Go ahead,
Gerb. I was just going to say, preach, my man. Gerb, go and preach. I'm here. I'm in the congregation. Let's go, buddy.
I was going to say, you're assuming that that's one species of NHI, and that's the same NHI that was here of prior years and epochs is the same NHI here of today.
I'm saying you could have, you don't have to pick one. You could just say, look, it's a mixed bag. Sometimes they're these little gray guys. They're not a big problem, but sometimes it's these other things, and that's a real issue. But you know what I mean? Like you don't have to answer.
Well, the secrecy of the topic too. This is kind of my wheelhouse. You have to think the first kind of globally recognized crash on U.S. soil was 1947's Roswell. There were previous crashes like Magenta. For all intents and purposes, Magenta was a lenticular disc that was non-manned. For all I know, because I'm unaware, maybe Roswell was the first time we recovered biologics. But
sure.
In 1947, this was hot off the heels of World War II. This is right when we were in a competing race with the Soviets to build the H-bomb, which was exponentially more powerful than even the atomic bomb. And all of a sudden, in our American Southwest, we have a series of crashes of small beings that display tremendous technological capabilities. There's going to be a scramble to both not incite fear within the larger U.S. populace, as well as try and create asymmetrical advantages from that technology. And over the years, that secrecy structure just spiraled out of control to where even real truths of reality, the question of whether or not we're alone, which no, we're not, has basically become classified information. It's just been a tremendous compounding effect. It's wild.
You know the idea that Dylan's talking about, that potentially it's preparing a battlefield. I've always liked there's a lot of good hypotheses. Something people always say modern day is that the alien abduction stopped. Why did they stop? Why have they slowed down? Well, maybe they found out all they needed to know. And if you're going through stages of discovery, observation, planning, assessment, then maybe alien abductions were just genuinely a thing for a couple of decades, and they went, cool, we know what we need to know. Let's move on.
Interestingly, I just caught a clip of Matthew Pines on Jesse Michaels' show talking about that very question, and they had a very interesting exchange on this. And one of the ideas that they were kicking back and forth was when the project is complete and you don't need to collect specimens anymore, that might indicate that whatever you think is about to happen is going to happen soon, and you have to have whatever genetic collections you're going to do done, because if a calamity were to take place or something were to wipe us out, or we wipe ourselves out, and you knew that was going to happen, that could be part of the ticking time clock thinking.
I'm going to be my smart ass in this. Excuse my language. Sorry for people with the kids. Ding, ding, ding.
I have an interjection to make a little bit because I remember Tom DeLonge talking about or insinuating that if this is real and this whole preparing for a battlefield concept is real, he exposed that there might be a scenario where the government and everybody who's keeping this a secret is doing it because they're getting ready in secret. And that's why potentially a lot of the misinformation has been taking place for nearly 80 years because you don't want to give away the plan for whatever they're getting ready to, you know. I don't know if that's like a possibility, but that came up to me as you guys were talking.
Yeah, the secrecy is not about us finding out. It's about the occupiers who are here that look like us, that are embedded in our society, finding out. Like you've got to...
I'm going to tiptoe that one. You know, I'm going to speak facts. Here's facts. And again, not saying what you said isn't a fact, but here's a fact. That was asked to me in McMinnville, and I answered it this way. You really think Russia, China, Israel, Five Eye, all the rest of the superpowers, especially the nuclear superpowers, don't know this is real? So why are all of them keeping their mouth shut? Because the question to me is, why is everybody being quiet? Why is Russia quiet? Why is China quiet? At a certain point, again, quoting Dave, you got to bring in agreements. That is the only answer to this. It is.
That we have agreements with them to maintain secrecy for their benefit?
Agreements, at least internationally. Now you can go and expand that to, are we in communication with them? I'm not going to make that bridge, but at a certain point, this goes back to nuclear weapons inspections and what I talked about on Weaponize, and Matt has tiptoed into it. At a certain point, there is some type of agreement to keep this quiet in the international community. There has to be.
I wonder if they have that much coordination. I mean, it just seems like that'd be one thing out of so many things that they would be coordinated on. I don't know, man. The impression I got when I read, I think we're about to go officially to Doomer Friday, which, by the way, Justin, I'm going to cue the video in a second here, but because we're getting into the Doom territory. The impression I got from reading Penetration, Ingo Swann's amazing book on remote viewing, was that there is a group that looks like us, that talks like us, walks like us. They have telepathic abilities. They could influence us from a distance, and they are here. They are in our society. They are embedded in our institutions. They are everywhere. They could be people that you even know, and you wouldn't know that they are hybrids. But that's part of what's going on. And the impression I got was that there is a group of people in the intelligence apparatus that are acutely aware of this, and they are trying to like work around that in some kind of very complex, weird way. And that's very deep lore for people who aren't into this topic, you know, more than just the surface level stuff. But I can't shake the feeling that the ticking time clock thing is real. I remember Coltart saying it years ago that he had heard this rumor. It feels like the information is flowing faster. It feels like we're on some kind of a moving platform here, and it's just there's going to be an endpoint.
May I fill you in on something again? My friend Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, friends plural. Gerb, Andy, Pavel, Clint, gentlemen to the bottom right. Haven't met you yet, but you're my friend. I got nothing but love for all you guys. Here's the deal: Jeremy and George went and met with Lou, and they brought up a future event. And Lou answered it the way that he could. And this goes back to, why the hell is ODNI and CIA leaking classified whistleblower testimony to frigging journalists? If you are not pissed as an American citizen, what are we talking about? But to answer your question, that was brought up to Lou, and Lou had to answer it legally the way you have to answer it in this world. It's pretty clear something's going on. And I try to avoid the woo, and most of you up here know that I know a thing or two about the woo. I don't like talking about the woo. I don't want to talk about it publicly. But there's a reason all this is unfolding, and I avoid Ingo Swann, not calling him a liar. I avoid all of this, but there's something to it. at the end of the day, there's a reason why all of this is starting to come out. There's a reason why you see an internal struggle within the Department of War, Department of Defense, and the IC. Gerb, am I wrong there? You see them fighting with each other daily.
Mm-hmm. True.
So it's pretty clear something is happening for a reason. And having worked in this for over a decade, you don't begin getting into fighting matches internally with lots of money and contracts unless something's going on and two agencies at minimum have a real big investment on what they want to be done with that information.
Yeah. That is very well said. Can we, Dylan, do you have a few minutes? Are you going to be here with us for another 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
I'm literally trying to say my HVAC, man. I'm going to make a joke. My family's unemployed and we're living off of pennies. We're pinching them. So I'm trying to shop back out water and make sure I have AC. But I'm here to be polite and do my best to not do anything crazy and just be a friend to you guys. I just want to say hi. But my favorite conversations are these where I can actually talk. So what is it you want from me? Because if it's not vital, I'm going to go back to working on my HVAC.
I just want to keep picking your brain, but if you've got other stuff to do, please don't let us keep you. You've spent more than enough time. You've been very generous with your time today, sir.
Thank you, Dylan.
Yeah, thank you for
You're
everything.
awesome.
Cheers,
Everybody on in the chat, please give it up for Dylan Borland, who's joined us today. Much to our surprise and delight. This has been awesome, man.
Well, if I'm getting booted, Gerb, Andy, Pavel, Clint, gentlemen to the bottom right. What's your name? I didn't know it. Justin. I love you guys. Peace to all of you. I love all of you. You guys mean the world. What you guys are doing means the world to me and the Whistleblowers. Gerb, Andy and Pavel, you guys are on the receiving end of this. This isn't possible without you guys, especially in the trenches. I know at contact, I'm going to say something that I normally wouldn't say, but Gerb, you said it. You want to be in the trenches with us. You are. Nothing but love, my man. And
I
I'm
love
here
you,
for
Dylan.
You.
And we got a date soon.
Oh, I love it.
Once I get the video out.
You bring me roses, my man. You better
I might.
bring me roses. You're damn right. They better be red. But no, I love you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. We got to figure out a way to hold the government accountable, the agencies accountable, the private businesses accountable. We need to look out for whistleblowers. If you want this to happen, everybody brings up Dave, and Dave started this. You need to protect Dave, and you need to protect everybody else who was there with Dave that aren't known, and the people who are. The only way we're getting through this is to hold these people accountable. And what you guys are doing is that have the conversations and hopefully we get there. And I appreciate being here. I was just going to stop in and say hi, and we got off on some tangents, but I hope I didn't do anything too crazy. Nothing but love. And I got to go wet vac a AC unit because it's flooded. So love y'all.
Dylan.
Love you, Dylan.
Thanks,
Bye,
buddy.
Dylan.
Have fun.
All right. Guys, what a dude. What a stud.
What a
Xander's going to be sad he missed this.
Xander missed the best episode. Really, this has been unbelievable. I think I didn't want to. So I knew Dylan was dealing with some stuff, and I wanted to go to Doomer Friday mode. So I've got a video here from Mr. Justin. We're going to queue up right now, and then we're going to go to Doomer Friday mode. So this is going to take just 1 second. I wanted to make
Is
sure.
that the mashup that we saw earlier this week?
Justin?
It's a matchup for sure.
Okay, let's see what we got. Here we go.
Static in the air. Something's coming through. They try to bury it, but the truth broke loose.
This is a surprise to me. I like it, Justin. That Weinstein?
Yeah.
Step into the ring where the classified fights. No more cover-ups, no more hiding tonight. You bring your debunks, we'll bring the receipts. Step in the ring and face what you can't beat. The orbs are aligned, the bell's about to ring. Nowhere to run when the phenomenon swings. Above top, secret smackdown.
Redacted.
Smackdown, they can't explain it away. Smackdown, nobody walks away. Above, top, secret. Smackdown.
That's going to have to be a regular thing.
You are a wizard, Dr. Justin.
You're a wizard.
Wow.
That was awesome. All right, it's officially Doomer Friday, I think.
There's some Twitter beef, and so I thought that was fitting to air that.
Tell us about
yeah.
what was the Twitter beef?
You can go ahead, Pavel.
Eric Weinstein called Mick West names. I'm not gonna say what he said, but they got into it. Mick doesn't really lose his cool when he's like engaging with others. I have never seen him lose his cool really, but that was an interesting one, and it was apropos for today. It fell in perfectly. So
Live by the sword, man. You want to be out there on Twitter shit talking everybody else, you got to be able to take it too. That's why I'm not on Twitter. I'm too sensitive. I can't do that shit. Can't get into fights with people.
it's all right. You just gotta ignore the ones that you don't like, and that's it.
Posting ghosts. Like Dylan was saying about being in the trenches a minute ago before he left, and it reminded me of this great phrase that Corbell used at Contact: UFO Vietnam. He's like, it's UFO Vietnam out there, guys. That's what it is. Really is. What do you think about what he was saying? The ticking time clock. Something's coming. Dylan seems to be at least kind of on board with that idea. What do you guys think? Andy, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's folks involved in this topic that will say they've been hearing that for decades. I heard similar 6 years ago. So it really depends on what. Do I believe there's a huge UFO approaching Earth in the next... So can I just plug, and this is relevant, I've got my Jeremy Corbell interview dropping in 1 hour on YouTube. So that's like 10 o'clock UK, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. We talk shit about Gerb, loads of... No, we don't. We just to wake him up. No, but we do go into the whole... There's a craft approaching Earth thing, which Corbell mentioned was taken out of context. But I brought up the fact that Corbell and Nat were at Elizondo's event a few nights ago, and Jeremy asked Lou 5 questions on stage, and one of them was about what's this story about 2027 or 2036 and a craft approaching the Earth. And rather than just say a normal answer, Lou again said, I'm not the person to ask about that. Hug your wife and children and family. So whether he truly knows something, because Corbell doesn't believe this is true. So there's 2 people that are on the same side.
Yeah.
Gerb's switching here, so clearly knows more than I can go into. But I would love to know, this sounds like bullshit to me. This whole something's approaching Earth. Not that something might not be coming or whatever. I don't believe aliens work to a calendar that we can work out. Yep, 2036, June 18th at 4 p.m. Because if it is the case, I really fucking hope it's the middle of the night in the United States and you'll have to wake up like the rest of us normally do. So I don't believe aliens or NHI are working to anything like a calendar we would be aware of. I don't believe anything's crawling its way across the universe right now to get to us. This is not the 3-body problem. And yeah, I'd like to know a little bit more about that. But people seem to talk, not Dylan, but people seem to talk really ambiguously around it. Is that for hypes, clicks, advertising shows, books? I don't know, but it's a little bit of a frustrating one.
Well said, Andy. I agree with you fully there. I think the 2027 thing is nonsense.
Or 2036.
Yeah, 2036 as well.
Well, yeah. Gerb, let me ask you a follow-up on that, though. What is the motivating force behind all of the activity that we're seeing right now? If you had to point to something and say it's happening now because...
Well, my personal view, based upon the best available swath of my evidence, is that we are kind of a product in a zoo where the zookeeper isn't interested in the animals unless they mess with the enclosure. That's my personal viewpoint. And I also believe that the NHI that is here on this planet today is not the NHI that was here millennia ago, even hundreds of years ago. But I feel very strongly about my zookeeper analogy. That's what I personally think.
I like the zookeeper analogy because that seems to fit with that seems more, I don't know, Space Brothers and all the, Love and Light people.
Do you know why I like that
trouble
one?
with that.
You might like this, Clint, because we think quite similar on some things, right? And to Gerb's point, I like the zoo thing and that something else, maybe not coming from other planets, but I know Kevin Knuth doesn't like the interdimensional thing because he doesn't think the language is correct. But, multiverse theory, if we started setting off atomic weapons and nuclear weapons, you're not necessarily sending signals out into Mars and other planets. But if you've literally got someone who lives in the same space as you, but you can't see them, maybe when you set shit off, it knocks through to them and they are going, what the fuck is going on? And then you start doing that hundreds and thousands of times testing stuff. Maybe these things get pissed off and go, right, what are they doing?
Because are you talking about the like super spectrum kind of concept, like non-visible?
That's how I got it.
Wakanda, multiverse, super spectrum, interdimension, whatever you want to call it. But other things are in, because I think Knuth was talking about dark matter, and that would explain you've got all this empty space, but it's not empty. We just don't see and interact with it. And again, for me, that would make sense. These craft aren't traversing the universe. I reckon we've probably had genuine extraterrestrial contact a hell of a lot less than we believe actually happened. And I think a lot of the NHI contact is something else, is an other. So if you've got a craft that you can come through here, it's not flying, it's leaving one dimension or whatever that language should be and coming to this reality. That allows them to come here, maybe physically, maybe they have to use little biological greys to come through here because they can't do it themselves. So the craft don't fly, the craft come through here. It's a portal. It's like Quantum Leap. It's like Alan Sam. Maybe it's like that.
That seems to be that's the one I'm most comfortable with, because it explains everything in the most simple way. It's why the sightings are so different from one person to the next. It's why all of these weird encounters, like Pascagoula, is so fucking weird. It's a complete outlier. That whole description of that encounter doesn't fit. No one else has had an encounter like Pascagoula. All of these different ships, all these different body types. There's too much variety for it to be one thing. It's why I have and Jacques Vallée's whole idea of there's some kind of superior supreme control system that's manifesting as a bunch of different things also seems weirdly like too complicated. The simpler answer would be there's just a lot of stuff out there, and we're in the middle of a busy area and we're just now figuring it out. It's like we live next to a highway or something, and it's all happening.
And maybe places like Skinwalker Ranch are so active because they live in, again, I'm not a scientist, clearly, sorry to shock folks, but I am not a scientist, right? Gerb's face is like, shit, Andy is not a scientist. Maybe you've just got places where it's a little bit stronger, a little bit more powerful. The fabric of space-time, I've watched a lot of movies, it's just a little bit weaker and stuff can come through. And that's why you get weird and wonderful fucking creatures crawling out of portals and things like that.
It also would make perfect sense in the context of cultures that are older than Western culture or the United States. I mean, thousands of years, indigenous cultures that have oral histories that go back, centuries before, and they have almost all of them have some kind of relationship with these beings on some level or another. It's not a weird alien thing to them. They know what they are. They have a way to talk about them. They have a language, a vocabulary for it. They have a mental framework that incorporates this stuff. And it seems like the problem in our culture is that somewhere around the time of the Enlightenment, the West just sort of detached from this notion of the, I don't know, unseen being real unless you could absolutely measure it with like hardware. And maybe we gave up our whole notion of how to discuss this in a broader sense. But this idea of like, it's always been very busy here. Things come and go all the time. Sometimes they use physical craft because that's how it's like putting on a diving suit and coming from their dimension into ours. They need a craft to get here. Sometimes they come out in a little biologic body, like a drone, like you were saying with the Greys. That makes sense to me. But it would also follow that some of them are good, some of them are bad. A lot of them are probably neutral or don't care either way. Indifferent, I guess.
I've said it's like, a game of The Sims, when you were like 16 with your mates, and we were all probably quite geeky in here, I imagine, right?
No.
So like I would load, I would load up the PC back in the day, install a floppy disk for the kids, and you would play like Sim City and stuff like that. And imagine you were with friends playing Sim City for the first time, and there's 4 of you, and you all are really into it at the start. But one after a few minutes gets really bored and fucks off and starts like on a phone call or something. That leaves 3 of you. And maybe one of them, as it builds up and you've got this little family and neighborhood, one of them goes, set a house on fire. That would be fun. And the other 2 go, nah, don't do that. But they're like, nah, let's mess this up a little bit. Let's cause a bit of chaos. And then you've got one who's like, I don't really care what happens to the family. Let's just restart the game. And then you've got another one who really cares. Maybe with this zoo hypothesis, there's not just one zookeeper. Maybe there's multiple. And maybe, to Gerb's point, maybe you had someone start the game and they have now gone, or they'll come back eventually maybe, but they've popped out for, milk and bread. And in the meantime, someone else has came along and picked up the controller and went, what's going on here? Oh, fuck, they've got like a little civilization going here. Let's have a play. The Eternals is the worst Marvel movie, maybe the worst movie I've ever seen in my life, right? But one thing, genuinely, if you want to talk about amnesty, I would hang, draw, and quarter the people who made the Eternals, right? They deserve anything that comes to them.
It does suck.
The idea of higher intelligences with us through civilizations that amongst themselves argue, that disagree, that have their own agendas, is probably on the money.
Yes.
Back in the Greek days.
Gerb, I see some tension there.
Oh, I was just going to ask Andy, you think the Eternals is worse than Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice?
Sorry, Pavel.
Dawn of Justin, you say?
Yeah, because do you know what? Batman v Superman's pretty fucking fast and pacey and messed up, but the Eternals is all style over substance. There's about 3 hours of desert shots in that movie.
I think both are awful, so I do agree with what you're saying.
Yeah,
Pavel, I cut you off, buddy. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm just like, it sounds an awful lot like all of the history of the different deities that had those, like the ancient Greeks and the Romans and all that. It sounded like that, and for me growing up, I was like, I read a lot of the Greeks and it was all myth, right? But then there's a lot of people in high positions of power who allude to this being potentially something real that may have been interpreted like that back then, but there was some kind of interaction with something that had each of them had different autonomies and all that. And, it just, I don't know.
Diana
Makes me think.
A lot of Diana Pasulka's work goes into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, if we're on a little island that is in between, or somehow located near some kind of transit way, or maybe there's just a lot of activity that passes through here, then if we were to announce, to try to establish some kind of open contact with that, there's also the threat of no civilization really survives that, right? I mean, like when the Spanish came to South America, it's not like it was just, okay, great, everybody gets along and things are going to be fine. I mean, it was a mess, and now, I mean, everybody that was there, their whole civilization was destroyed, and now it's a completely different world. That's the rule, not the exception. Why would we be any different?
Yeah, one clearly takes over.
Right.
And knowing us, we would instigate and try that first, and they would go, no, like Arrival, when we try and blow up one of the spaceships. And it's like, that's probably pretty accurate in terms of how UFO reality would actually go. Oh, these things have came down and tried to talk to us. Let's sneak a bomb in and try and blow them up before they do
Shoot first, ask questions later.
It's the Han Solo Star Wars,
the American way.
The hole in that movie, which I understand why they weren't trying to tell this story, but I mean, it seems silly to me that movie starts with the base assumption that we have no knowledge of any alien life whatsoever, and there is no Area 51. Like they just, oh my God, the aliens just showed up. This is the first time we're seeing all this. Seems a little hard to buy. But you know, to your point earlier, Andy, about atomic weapons, I also wonder sometimes if it has something to do with underground bases or hidden bases. Underground nuclear testing might damage their technology. It might have some. We know that EMPs can take their ships out of the sky. We know that some terrestrial technology, if you believe Colonel Corso, there's certain types of pencil beam radar, he called it, that interfered with their craft in some way that we didn't really understand it at the time. I don't know. I just have, there's this, the sense I have is that this idea that whoever we're dealing with is somehow like godlike.
Let's go full 90s coast to coast here, right? Let's go full Art Bell mode, collar mode. What if we are not testing things underground, but what if there is a whole civilization that lives under the earth, that were some of these intelligences that were here long before us, they moved underground, because to actually live on the skin of a planet is the worst place on most planets you could live. It would be underground. It would make a lot more sense. That gives you all your Atlantis shit and everything as well. And we're actually in big wars and fighting these things underneath the ground. That's the nuclear testing that happens under the ocean. Yeah. Boom.
Okay. There you go. You heard it here
Tell
first.
me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, Clint.
That's who was the guy that worked on the bases that Phil Schneider? Isn't that what he said? I went down into the shaft with a Luger pistol and I got to the bottom and remember this story? Phil Schneider, they were building deep underground bases. He was a
shootout in the dumbs.
Geologist, right? Wasn't he a geologist? Some kind of a geologist who was brought in to consult on this. And how do you guys not know this story? Phil Schneider's story is like
I do.
Too young.
Oh, yeah,
Too young.
too young. And so he's working on building this base, and the way he's explaining it, he's like, first they go down and they drill down 4 holes, and that's the corners of the shape they're trying to build, and then they go down the shaft and they dig across. There's some kind of a method to this, how this works. And he says that as part of his job, as I believe he's a geologist, and he was there to sort of figure out where they could do certain things or how this was going to be built. He goes down in an elevator shaft to get to the bottom of the shaft that they've cut, and they come out into a room that he describes as a huge room, and there are grays in there. And there's a tall gray that sees him. He sees the tall gray. He freaks out. He reaches for his gun. He shoots this gray, and then he is lit up in some kind of electronic light. They zap him with something, and it cuts his hand in half. There's a firefight, he goes on to say. There are some Green Berets who are there to provide security. That's what they're doing. One particular Green Beret pulls him out, and that's the reason he survives that. But what was when they discovered that's what they found down there. When they were drilling down, they basically discovered an underground base.
That sounds like a 25-page Linda Moulton House story.
I think, yeah, it does sound like that.
I've been contacted by a man who tells me that he's been in contact. Yeah. So like
a retired
Yeah.
Navy SEAL.
Yeah. Fought on Mars for 35 years before being returned.
Can I ask something real quick?
Of course.
Because I think we're maybe probably about to finish in a
Yeah.
little bit. Because in the David Grush event on Tuesday, there's a little soundbite from Congresswoman Luna that I was very curious to maybe see if we can expand on a little bit, because she seems to claim, and she seemed really certain that there was going to be some kind of meeting at the White House to get that executive order for whistleblower protections. How certain is this, if anybody can answer, that this will happen, or maybe it already happened? Because the UFO file drop today was pretty underwhelming for me, and I don't know if that can help for the next batch that drops, if that can help get some more meaningful stuff.
Yeah.
Why is everybody looking at me? If I knew, under no circumstances would I divulge that information if I knew.
Okay, fair
If you
enough.
had to guess, though. If you don't know, then if you had to guess.
Shrug.
She seemed really certain. She was very certain. So that's why I'm asking, because she was convinced. That's how she sounded like.
Time will tell, Pavel.
Okay. Oh, sorry, had to ask.
You're very devious. You're very
Sorry.
devious.
I think we are going to go ahead and wrap it there, guys. But so we're at what, 2 hours and almost 12 minutes. Any final thoughts on Disclosure Day? We're all recommending everybody goes and sees it, right?
Go watch
Or
it.
no?
Yeah.
Go
Hell
watch
yeah.
it. And
I
while
need to
you're
watch it a
there,
second time.
when you watch it, listen. What else do we want to talk about? Mr. Justin, you have a recruiting drive, if I'm not mistaken, that you wanted to mention to some folks, right? You were trying to get some people to participate in a project you've got cooking.
Yeah,
When-
I have so many.
When we say the boys at the lab, we're talking about Mr. Justin and his lab. This is our guy.
So I have adjacentinteractive.com. I'm asking for people who want to volunteer, building some video games with some stuff. And I have a second one almost done. I'm just busy because I do all kinds of things. But I have a big one that I want to do, but it's going to take some time with some accuracy, with lore stuff built into it. So
Adjacent Interactive is through here if people want to be involved in. So you're building a number of different games, right? You've got game design going on, and so how do people use this to get in contact with you?
just request access, sign in. I get a notification, and I can approve and assign you a role. And it's just all volunteer stuff, so it's what you can participate and when you can. There's no set deadlines on anything right now, so
We're trying to expand the night shift expanded universe even more, and we're going to be doing some more interesting projects, and you're going to find out about these as we get a little bit further along. They're in the very early nascent stages right now, but Mr. Justin has been working very hard in the background to develop a lot of really cool concepts, and we've talked about some of the game projects that he's working on a little bit. And I want to do a full video with you and take people through so they can see some of the stuff. But like the action figure designs, the all of the AI films, short films that you've been putting together. Is that my action figure?
yeah,
we
I
have
leave it
a-
at work.
Do we have a Gerbio?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Well, Justin and I will be watching UFC this Sunday, so he's got a little care package of stuff for me, and I'm very excited. We're going to be hanging out and watching, so that's going to be a lot of
Ooh.
fun.
Very exciting. All right, guys. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up there, and we'll come back next week and pick it up when Xander. And
I
Dan-
sent you a little video on WhatsApp, Clint. See if we can close with that. Maybe a little parental control advice before we show it, because this is really funny.
yeah, we'll go out on this.
And Clint, just before you play that, thank you for having me on again, everyone. I've really appreciated speaking to you all. And my interview with Corbell starts in 45 minutes on YouTube if anyone wants to catch it. It goes into a lot around the current drops, what's happening, what Corbell does and doesn't have, because there's a lot of wrong information out there as to what Jeremy and George Knapp's role is in this right now. And we go into all of that. And I think people will get a lot from it, to be honest.
Awesome.
That UFO podcast, and in 45 minutes it's going to drop. Please go there, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and drop some comments on the video, and
my OnlyFans.
and UF OnlyFans.
UF OnlyFans, yep.
UF OnlyFans is a new thing. That's Mr. Justin's other project. Gerb, you also have a video coming out. Can you tell people where to find your next drop and when that's going to happen?
On my channel, youtube.com/UAP Gerb. Probably within the next couple of days. It's a hefty one, so get that out, and then some exciting stuff at the end of this month. So just stay tuned.
All right.
Nice.
And Pavel, what's going on with you? Anything?
No, I just really enjoyed this conversation. I like that. I love to listen to every one of you. So thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you. Likewise. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it there. I'm going to just ask you to go to teamnightshift.com, please. Check out our website, check out our cool merch, pick up some Night Shift coffee. If you like this kind of banter and you really enjoy what we're doing here, and many of you have enjoyed it at one time or another. We have a really unique way that you can support us, and really it's as simple as getting coffee every month. You go to Team Night Shift, you subscribe. We have a monthly subscription to this, and you kick a few bucks into us every month, and as our gift to you, we send you a box of coffee, and it's really good stuff. So go there, check it out. Leave us a comment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can do all of those things. Make sure that you follow all of our people. We have a lot of different folks doing different things, and they all have their own very unique way of covering this topic. So it's a good group. You want to follow all these guys. That's it for us. Thanks to our mod squad. Thank you to everyone who participated in the chat. Thanks for all the super chats. You guys are amazing. We will see you again next week. Take care of yourselves and each other, and keep looking up, everybody. I'm going to see if this will play. Here we go.
No sound.
Oh, no.
That sucks.
I don't have the sound. Okay, we'll do it next time. Oh, man. Sorry, guys. All right. That's it for us. See you next week.